If you're moving to Boston, I'm sure you've heard somewhere, you've been told, or you're at least aware, the weather sucks here, wintertime is horrible, and I'm sure you're wondering, how bad is it really to live in Boston? How bad is the weather? What is it actually like when it starts to snow in Boston? And believe it or not, we're going to talk about a few positive aspects of how it gets cold in Massachusetts. So let's get into it. Hey there, welcome to the channel, or welcome back. My name is Jacob Peistrup. If you're moving to Boston or moving to Massachusetts and you have questions, you're buying a house, you're signing a lease, whatever it is, and you have questions, you want help with that process in this hectic real estate market, please give me a call, send me a text, or send me an email. I am a real estate advisor in the Boston area and love the clients I get to work with through the YouTube channel. Sharing information about this city is what I love, so if I can do anything to help you with that process of buying or renting in Boston, let's get in touch and let's start that conversation. So, how bad is it really in Boston in the winter time? From someone who is from the Midwest originally, I'm used to cold, I'm used to snow, but Boston is really something else when it comes to the snow, the cold. Just the winter time in Boston is on another level. Just to give you an idea, Boston averages 48 inches of snowfall per year. Compare that to the US average of 28 inches of snow. We are almost double the average of the US in terms of snowfall. Granted, keep in mind that's the average of the whole US, so that factors into account, the South where they don't get any snow, as well as New England and parts up north where it does snow a lot more. But point being, Boston is almost double the average snowfall of the US. It snows here, we do get snow, and it also just gets pretty cold in general in the winters in Boston. We do get snow. There will be, a couple bad snowstorms per year. If you hear anyone in the Boston area or in New England use the term nor'easter, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically a winter storm that happens basically on the east coast of the United States. It is a winter cyclone of wind and snow. So if you hear someone say there's a nor'easter coming, it means expect it to snow a lot. Now, yes, obviously it snows, it gets chilly, it's not always fun to live in that in Boston. And everyone, says, oh my gosh, Boston, the winters are horrible, the winters are freezing, whether they live here or they're someone from elsewhere and they've just heard that. Yes, of course, but let's really break down what it looks like and what it feels like to live in Boston in the wintertime. I'll give you some examples, and like I said too, I will give you actually a couple good things about the cold and about the snow in Boston. Every time it snows, for the first day or two, it's nice, it's pretty, you want to go outside and take pictures, it looks very nice and beautiful. Couple days later to a week, it turns brown and gross and sloshy, and it's not fun to walk around in, especially if you're in the city, crossing the street, walking on sidewalks. Those aren't always cleaned up. It gets messy, it gets wet, you drag it into the house, you drag it into your apartment. It's a nightmare to clean up. But overall, Boston is usually really good about keeping the roads clear, and as far as their snow removal and snow removal infrastructure, they do a good job. So they're prepared when we get snow. It's not out of the ordinary for them to, plow the roads during snowstorms, so that the roads are usually clear by the morning after, when it's time to go to work or drive the kids to school. The roads are clear. They salt them the night before if we know there's a storm coming or if it's going to get icy. Boston and the Boston area is typically good about preparation so that it's not crazy when we do get a lot of snow. So Boston is not a city that will get shut down and go completely crazy over a couple inches of snow. It'll take a lot more than that to do some damage in Boston. That's St. Louis for you. I'm from St. Louis, where 2 to 3 inches of snow will shut down the city and cancel schools. I kid you not. That's the Midwest for you. But in New England, they are very good about snow removal and just overall recovery from when we have a bad snowstorm. That being said, Boston drivers are ridiculous as is. So if you're not familiar with driving in the snow, this is not a good place to learn. Boston drivers are crazy, they're stupid sometimes, especially when it's snowy and icy on the roads. If you're not familiar with driving in snow, especially if you're driving in the city, You do not want to try that for the first time in Boston. Now, the thing with it being cold in Boston is that it literally gets too cold for it to snow. So sometimes it'll snow and it keeps getting colder and colder. The snow stays, but it gets too cold to even snow anymore. Last week, it was 5 degrees pretty much all week long. We were consistently single digits. It sucked. It was not fun, but it didn't snow. We had snow already, so the snow just stayed there, but it got icy, it got slippery. You know, they had to keep salting the roads because it was so cold the entire week. Like, my hands and face will get dry and irritated just walking from the car to my house or going to the grocery store and walking from the parking lot to inside. It happens fast. When it's like 5 degrees outside, your skin gets very irritated very easily. So the snow is fun and pretty, but those cold temperatures get annoying very fast. And then you gotta layer up, you gotta get multiple layers on, get a hefty coat on, and then you gotta take those off the second you step inside somewhere because you get so hot and sweaty, it's like you're stepping into a sauna. The moment you walk into a building or get into a car, you know, you just start sweating because you gotta put all the layers on, take them back off because you go inside somewhere and you're no longer in 3 to 5 degree weather. It's like, I hate going from outside into a building, stepping into an elevator, it gets stuffy, congested, it feels like you're in a sauna. The T stations, don't get me started. Using the T somewhere in Boston in the wintertime, I don't know what it is. Those things are like a sauna constantly. You're going from 5 degree weather outside, you go down into the T station and it's like I'm burning up, I'm sweating, I'm stripping off layers because it is so hot down there. You step onto the T, you're pushed up against other people and it's like, you go from that to then walking outside again, you step off the T, you gotta put your coat back on, but now you're sweaty, you're hot, you're a mess because you just came off the T, pushed up like sardines against everyone, and you go outside and it's 5 degrees again. I mean, it's a process. You go back and forth, take the coat off, put it back on. That's what it's like living in Boston in the wintertime. I mean, the part that I hate about it is that when it's that cold outside, I really don't want to do anything. I'm like, when I have errands to run or I have to go pick something up, or if I'm just trying to go to the gym, it's like I'm so not in the mood to go do that. I'm like, can those errands wait a few days? Can I go to Target later on when it's not so cold? Do I really feel like layering up to walk to the gym, take it back off, get a workout in, get all sweaty, and then leave when it's 5 degrees outside? And it's like, it gets to the point where unless something is very urgent, I gotta go meet with clients or I need something from the office, gotta go pick up paperwork. It's like, unless I really have to do it, I'm not in the mood to go run errands. I'm not in the mood to go out with friends. I'm not in the mood to, walk down the street to go do something unless I really have to, because it's just not fun to do it when it's 5 degrees outside. If you have kids in school, schools will cancel the day before sometimes if we know there's a bad snowstorm coming, and they'll cancel oftentimes just because it gets so cold. Like, if we know it's gonna be negative degree weather, schools will cancel the day before knowing it's about to get really cold. They don't want kids outside. They don't want kids, walking to and from school or going out to recess, so they will cancel schools because of the cold. So definitely something to keep in mind as well. If you have school-aged children, expect at least a couple snow days or cold days each year because it either snows too much or it gets way too cold for the kids to go to school. These days, luckily, it is easier to do that just because we have Zoom, people are doing online learning and remote school. But keep in mind, it's not uncommon at all to have a couple snow days each year because it either snows so much or because it gets so cold for people to go outside. Now, like I did mention, a few things that are actually positives about having this snow and having the cold we get here in Boston. The first, when it's so cold, it can't snow. It's so cold, your hands get dry and flaky. It's actually gorgeous outside. The weather is beautiful, and that's because it's so cold that there are no clouds in the sky. So you will see blue skies, sunny weather for weeks on end when it gets that cold, and we're in the single digits here in Boston. It is beautiful outside, as long as you admire it from the indoors and you're not going outside that much because it's just not fun. Another thing that's great is that if you are buying a house during those winter months, that is usually the slowest point in the market. And the reason is because people don't want to move. They don't want to go out looking at houses during, those months, December, January, February, when it's freezing out. No one's in the mood to go out and look at houses. So if you are someone who's willing to go out and do that, that's great for you because it's, a slower market. You have more leverage as a buyer because usually it's much less competitive than the spring and summertime when everyone's wanting to buy a house and everyone wants to move. So if you get the market during those off months, you have more negotiation power, you have more leverage as a buyer. because overall the market moves a little bit slower during those off months. Another positive aspect of buying in the winter time is that during that inspection period, you get to see if the pipes freeze, you get to see if there's any issues heating the house, does it get drafty anywhere? You get to find out and see that you wouldn't get to see during the spring and summertime, and you would be stuck, finding out the hard way after you move in, and then suddenly it gets cold outside. If you're buying in the wintertime, you have more of a chance of seeing any issues like that in that house before you actually purchase it. So if you're purchasing in the wintertime, you're much more likely to uncover those issues rather than buying in the spring or summer. And then by the time you find out, you've already closed, you're already living there. The house is yours once it finally gets cold outside. If you buy in the wintertime, you're not gonna have that issue the same way you would if you bought in the summer. So those are just a few positive aspects of the cold and the snow here in Boston. Those are the big ones I could think of. So if you think of anything else, let me know in the comments below. But those are kind of the big ones that I thought of with, good sides to the snow and the cold we get here in Boston. So if you are looking to move to Boston, whether the city or anywhere in the suburbs, and you want help with that process, whether buying a house, signing a lease, and you have questions or want some support with that, give us a call, send over a text, or send an email, whatever works best for you. Let's get in touch, start that conversation, and get you here to Boston. So that is going to wrap things up for today. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Hope you take care. Have a great day, and I will catch you in the next video right here on the Living Boston channel.